Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. Let's dive into Polish politics now. Following a defeat in the latest presidential elections, the ruling coalition in Poland found itself compelled to a reshuffle, displaying new energy and much-needed unity. But the reset, announced and awaited, has been put on hold after being delayed at the request of Szymon Hołownia, the parliamentary speaker and the leader of Polska 2050, a centrist coalition party. We're joined now by Stuart Dowell, political editor at TVP World, to understand the political stakes and discuss possible scenarios. So, Stuart, let's start with a blunt question. How serious is the situation and what can happen? Do you believe that this fragile coalition may part before the end of the term?
Well, there's no doubt that the coalition is very fragile. It was fragile before the presidential election. It had spent the first year and a half in a very difficult period of cohabitation with the outgoing president Andrzej Duda, and the fragility only increased after it lost its candidate. Rafał Trzaskowski lost the election. That fragility was further increased after, as you mentioned, Szymon Hołownia met with Jarosław Kaczyński a week ago in the...
We'll delve on that too.
And it set a kind of a political hand grenade under the coalition. However, I think we have to remember that in the Polish lower house there are 460 members. The coalition accounts for 242 of those members. It means that it has an 18-member majority. Governments can exist with much smaller majorities. In fact, governments can exist as minority governments. The analogy that people like to use about the coalition is that it's a kind of marriage. But on the other hand, marriages are very difficult to end and leave. In the situation with the coalition, a coalition partner can say from one day to the next that it doesn't want to be in the coalition. Therefore, I don't see it as a marriage, rather more like a kind of situationship or a kind of a friends with benefits arrangement. Mm-hmm. At the moment, the constituent members see that there are those benefits, but those benefits might not last much longer.
Exactly. So. What do you make of it? I mean, who's responsible for the losing momentum of this coalition? And what decisions are behind such a situation that we face today?
Well, the odium and hate has been poured onto the lower house speaker, Szymon Hołownia, because of his meeting with Jarosław Kaczyński last week. Not just because he met with him, that's quite normal to meet with all members of the Sejm, but because of where it was at the apartment of a particular controversial kind of behind the scenes grey eminence character, Adam Bielan, and also the time of the meeting after midnight gave it an aura of intrigue.
And apparently it wasn't the only one, the only meeting. There were another one, right?
That's right.
So who leaked it in first place?
Well, there are many theories about what happened at the meeting and why he went there, and it's even suggested that Szymon Hołownia walked into a trap set by Jarosław Kaczyński in order to weaken an already weak.
Do we know
coalition.
what has been discussed during this meeting? And what was the purpose of it?
A lot of people have said that the reason was to discuss a potential technical government, with Szymon Hołownia bringing across his members to create this technical coalition. I think we have to remember that his party, Polska 2050, was set up as an alternative to the polarized duopoly that we have had in Poland for over 20 years, and his members are very much anti law and justice. So it's unlikely that Szymon Hołownia would be able to deliver his MPs into such a coalition. So there are other theories, for example, that Jarosław Kaczyński wanted to ensure that as same speaker, Szymon Hołownia would convene the National Assembly, the meeting between both upper and lower houses, in order to swear in the President-elect Karol Nawrocki. But I think that the reticence of Szymon Hołownia to declare exactly what he was talking about suggests strongly that there was some kind of political horse trading going on.
So how has this meeting and the whole situation affected the trust between the partners within the coalition?
Probably very greatly. As I was saying, the parties can leave the coalition at any time they want. At the moment, they're deciding to stay there because it's clearly in their interest. But that may change. What may change? At the moment, a recent poll suggested or showed that the governing coalition is incredibly unpopular. 59%, I believe, of respondents assessed negatively the government. So the question for the constituent members of the coalition is how much pain can they endure if the government becomes increasingly unpopular, as that will affect their prospects in the parliamentary elections, which are due to take place in the second half of 2027.
Right. So here are the options for Donald Tusk. First, the centrist coalition, the centrist Hołownia party could lose parliamentary majority without Polska 2050, 2050, with Hołownia, who got also, we should mention that he also got damaged significantly because of the start in the presidential run, right? And so the coalition ability to govern looks uncertain, but what is the third option? What can he do, Donald Tusk, right now?
Well, after I'm sure the reshuffle will take place, not on Tuesday as they planned, but a week later.
22nd,
That's right. So I'm sure there will be a reshuffle, and they'll plan to continue governing for the next 2 years. I think what we're going to see today, Iga Świątek is playing in the women's final at Wimbledon. I think tennis is a good metaphor for what's happening at the moment. I think we're going to see something like legislative tennis, where the government will be sending over not balls but bills to the presidential palace for signing. Those will be sent back to the government. Of course, the government doesn't have the 3/5 majority required to pass the legislation without the president's sign-off. And then even Karol Nawrocki and people around him have suggested that he will use his president's prerogative to originate his own legislation.
All right, so pretty much the same situation that we've observed for the past years, right, with Andrzej Duda.
Yes, but I think it's worth remembering that Andrzej Duda signed off on the majority of the legislation that the current government sent to it. But of course, lots of that legislation is the daily business of government. It's only the more controversial bills that create the opposition from Andrzej Duda. It's been suggested that Karol Nawrocki will be much more hostile to the government, and we can expect him to perhaps not sign off on more bills.
So two elements here. First, again, all this happens against a backdrop of the presidential elections outcome under scrutiny by a faction of the coalition and the ruling party. The politicians centered around a prominent lawyer and figure, Roman Giertych. So Prime Minister Donald Tusk decided to join his accusations of voting irregularities after Karol Nawrocki's very narrow win. So what happens now?
What happens?
with these irregularities being somehow put forward, and what can happen here?
Well, the Supreme Court, or at least the chamber of it, the Chamber of Extraordinary and Public Affairs, accepted the legitimacy of the election. And Szymon Hołownia, as the House Speaker, has said that he's going to convene the National Assembly to swear in Karol Nawrocki.
So that ends the situation?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And the second element is the right-wing influence with Grzegorz Braun, the latest anti-Semitic statements and acts also. So how can this affect also the situation with the coalition?
Well, latest polling shows that there'll only be four parties in the same: the Civic Coalition, Law and Justice, the Confederation Alliance, and Grzegorz Braun's party, the Confederation of the Polish Crown. So that suggests strongly that the only possible way to form a government will be on the right side of Polish politics, between Law and Justice and the Confederation Alliance. It's hard to see how that's going to change in the next 24 months.
Because some say that Jarosław Kaczyński is just putting on hold, he's waiting because he doesn't want the right-wing Konfederacja to grow too much. So he needs time to suppress basically the rivalry on the right wing. That's for now. But what will become the 2050 and Szymon Hołownia himself? What's the scenario for the centre?
Well, as you mentioned, he did very poorly in the presidential election, achieving just under 5% compared to previous presidential election, where I think he got double figures. Polls also show that his party is polling under 4%. His party was in an alliance with the Agrarian Peasants' Party, the PSL, which helped both parties get into the same at the last parliamentary election. But they've decided to part ways and fight the next election by themselves. But both parties are polling under 4%. In Poland, a party needs 5% to get into the same. So both parties are looking at parliamentary destruction.
And symbolically, just to end, as we must wrap up, we should say that this reshuffle was about to take place on the anniversary of the Battle of Grunwald, to show the unity and the energy and the momentum, right? And now it's been rescheduled for 22nd of July, which is also an important date in Polish history, but related to the communist era. So remains to be seen what it will bring for the ruling coalition right now. Thank you so much, Stuart Dowell, political editor, TVP World. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your comments and insights this morning.
Welcome.
And thank you for watching TVP World and World Talks here. Please stay tuned for more interesting comments and other features.